So G'day, Nespo here, and I would like to take a second here to thank you guys for watching my 2042 beta content, watching all the amazing rounds that I had, as well as participating in having a huge contribution to my last video, which was simply a review on what I thought of the tanks. It couldn't have helped myself to get it to a 30-minute video, but I figured more detail is better than less. So it was very insightful, seeing some very constructive comments and forward thinking, as well as considering what worked in the past. But one thing that we have to consider is the future of Battlefield, and the only way we're going to move forward from here is being open to suggestions and trying things out. So after you finish watching this video, I would highly recommend going watching the tank review video, as well as some of my other rounds that I had in the beta, as well as just generally any of my content if you actually enjoy it. So sit on back and let's just cover what the topic is going to be today. Today's topic is simply I'm going to be playing Caspian Border, because we know with Battlefield Portal coming out that this is going to be one of the maps that's going to return to the base game, as well as playing in Portal. So I figured it's worthwhile showing you guys how to play this map exactly, and it's one of the all-time classics for the whole Battlefield community. So I don't think there's many people that really hate this map. It's a pretty base map and actually well thought out. In saying that though, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the BF4 version, so there won't be this gigantic wall that separates the whole map, which I think was a bit detrimental to map flow and actually somewhat made the map one-sided to a degree. So the one thing you want to take note of first of all is simply how many vehicles are on this map. In the Conquest Large version, each side roughly gets 2 tanks from their uncap, as well as 1 tank that spawns at their give me flag. So each side roughly gets about 3 tanks, so you need to keep track of 3 different armor pieces. Now, those are not the only things that feature on this map. There are 2 jets, as well as an attack chopper. The attack chopper is probably going to be the thing that harasses you the most, depending on how effective the jets are. Otherwise the jets and the attack chopper might focus you, but there's plenty of ways to avoid them if you're using camo or using your cover correctly. You can also run an S-straw, which will help you take them out. So if you know how to aim with that properly, get yourself into some nice cheeky positions, and when they're trying to strafe other targets, you can get a really easy shot on them. That's the best way to go about it. The attack chopper, you just have to use simply the cover that's given to you. So this C flag where the hill is, I spend a lot of time trying to control it, because if I'm trying to hide from the attack chopper and they hold that hill, what can happen is they jump down from that hill on top of you while you're trying to repair or while you're trying to avoid the attack chopper, and so you can get yourself caught out. One of the things you also want to think about is your pathing on this map. As you can see here, I've already decided where my escape route is to avoid the NPT law rocket spam. And as long as you do that, it's going to be hard for them to kill you. So if you can keep them at range, have a bit of rock cover to cover your escape or retreat, or to dodge incoming fire, you're setting yourself up some really good fundamentals to take this map successfully. The other things that you need to consider, that the map does have a large play zone, so the back side of the map is quite open, so that allows for jeeps, transport vehicles to get around to your back flags and constantly harass them. You also need to consider when one flag gets capped, as you already just noticed then when I peeked around the corner, it can be quite acceptable to zerging. If you run into a zerg, take a quick look to see what kind of targets you have to prioritize. If you see there's engineers, you probably want to shoot them first. Otherwise, you can pick your targets at your leisure. The only things you have to then really worry about is, for example, are they running C4? So you're having to look at your support players and recons. Are there other vehicles that might have C4 on it coming rushing at you? Because generally vehicles that have a suicide wish do not fear you, and they will drive straight at you or come up from you from behind. But as long as you're looking left or right, pulling open your big HUD and your map and taking in the information that the game provides you, that shouldn't be too much of an issue. So what I'm trying to do here is stay on the flag burn and kill as many people as possible, but trying to make sure that I do have an exit route. I really don't want them to own this flag, because we will lose the game if we lose this flag. The reason why I say that is this flag is actually one of the spawn points for one of the extra tanks. And if you do the mathematics, if they get this tank, it will be 2 tanks for the Russian side versus 4 for the US side. So each tank technically will have to be in a 2v1, and if you know how tanking works in this game, it's pretty much impossible unless you get a glitch shot or some luck. You can actually beat 2 tanks. It's pretty hard, especially if they are very competent tankers, but it can be done. You just have to outplay, make them miss their shots, and gain every opportunity advantage that you can take. So, one of the other things you need to consider is, once you've actually capped the flag, is consider that they might have spawned in and try to avoid getting wiped. And what I mean by getting wiped is, what happens is when the things are getting too hard for the enemy to maintain the flag, what they will do is they will spawn in and wait. They will wait till you leave and then try and recap the flag. So it's sometimes worthwhile going and checking where the spawn points are to see if there are enemies waiting and hiding in there. This is a very common thing that was done in competitive, because you had to get the squad wipe, because if you owned more flags and you could shut down the players so they had to do a hard reset from their uncapped base, that was pretty much a hard guarantee that you would take a large amount of tickets off the enemy team. The same thing applies with playing pub gameplay. It's just a little bit more forgiving, but with the amount of tickets that you have. As you can see, I've come back here and I figured out exactly where they are, and you can see I'm trying to cheekily shoot them through the box because their arms and legs are coming out of the text box. I'm trying to get my gunner to get out here so that he can open the door, but I don't think he comprehends what I'm trying to ask him. So unfortunately, I can't really deal with these guys whatsoever. Ideally, I would get out myself and open the door, but it's a high risk that I could give them the tank, and that is not an ideal situation. You can see I'm getting pretty frustrated because I'm expecting something a bit more. Doesn't help that I have high expectations when it comes to players. I do sometimes get a little bit carried away. Do remember that when you're playing this game, you are playing with people that they don't play or take this game seriously. They just knock off work and they just want their frills for the afternoon. And every once in a while, I am very guilty of not taking that into note. Normally when that happens is probably when I'm very tired, or I've had a long day at work, or I'm just really stressed out. So do forgive me if I ever do this to you into game. Don't take it personally. I'm sure you're a beautiful human being. I think it's the spectrum where how when you become a bit more competitive, you start to not enjoy the game for the same reasons as you would for casual players. So I definitely fall under that scope, but every once in a while it does be quite enjoyable to take the game less seriously and come up with silly ideas and take Battlefield for what we know it for, being the gigantic sandbox that it is. Now, the next thing that we're going to work on here is trying to get our infantry up to this C flag here. It's quite hard, and it's very notorious for the head glitches that these infantry can spam rockets off. It's even more frustrating if they're using MBT laws, which are very easy rocket launchers to use. They're quite friendly based for new players, so all you have to really do is dump fire on them and they will generally hit their target. They do less damage, but when you have about 4, 5, 10 people all using them at once, that's when it starts to become extremely deadly. You can see here, finally they figured out where their enemies are hiding, and I put a shell in there, and that's the end of the story. So if you're ever trying to figure out where they are on this flag, it is quite a possibility they're in that shipping container. So do remember that when the game comes out for Portal. I'm not sure if they're going to be featuring exactly detail of how it looks like in Battlefield 3 or versus Battlefield 4. So it'd be very interesting, I think, about what the maps would like to be laid out. Also, while I'm quickly on it, I don't want to steer off the topic too much. I have been considering maybe making a small video of my thoughts on what possibly, out of all the maps that are coming to Battlefield 2042 at launch, how I would rate them and how do I think they're going to play out gameplay wise. Let me know if that's a video you would like to see. I know it's a little bit off the normal topic I would do, but I want to branch out my channel and cover more other topics that you might be interested in besides from just tanking. Now you can see up here, I'm trying to look to my left and right, and I'm in a situation where I don't need to necessarily push the enemy because we own the flag caps at the moment, so we have 3 flags versus 2. But I think honestly, watching back on my gameplay, I'm not actually aware of this, and I'm convinced that we only have 2 flags, and so I'm actually pushing this a lot more aggressively than I should. But as you can see, I am putting myself in a position which is still allowing for the team to push up, so that they're not getting hurt, and then they're in a better situation to push the flag with me. So I back on up, get some of my HP up so I can take a bit more hit and a bit more damage, and drive my way up this hill. Just be careful on that vent on the left hand side. If some people are really smart, they'll throw slams on it. I don't know if slams are going to be in 2042, but do remember that portal's a thing, so they are possibilities. They will bring back all the different utilities from different and previous battlefields. The spawn points on this are very tricky because some of them are under the flag, and a lot of them are kind of sit in positions where there's plenty of good cover for the infantry to protect themselves. So if your infantry gets wiped, or they're not really watching the outside where the possible spawn points are, you can get easily swarmed and get 100 to 0 health really quickly, and then you're back on the spawn screen and then having to spawn in on foot and keep pushing the enemy. Or if you're a bit of a vehicle enthusiast like I am, you might be sitting on the spawn screen. It's totally up to you. I'm not going to judge you on what you want to do. Anyway, I come back up here trying to get some of these head glitches, using my HMG to its full potential, just tap firing it, making sure I reset the spread so that I can get the maximum damage on the headshots on them, and just hopefully get another opportunity to push up on the flag here. But as you can see, there's not really much going on. Our whole team's been wiped, and now we're down a flag. So this is most unfortunate. But you can see we have an attack chopper up, and he's basically strafing the area. So hopefully he's cleared some of the infantry in front of me so that I can push up with him. I decide to change my angle of attack. This side is a little bit more risky. If you're going to try and drive up that ramp, it's a little bit harder, but the only reason why that is when you come down, you just got to take note of those rocks down there so you don't get yourself stuck on them. If you get stuck on them, it makes it really easy for the enemy to finish you off, especially if you're on low HP. I try to assess the situation, and my squad and teammates get wiped again, and so there's still not much I can do. And the reason why I'm not pushing here is because I've got plenty of information on the HUD that I can tell there's at least about 5 or more people there. So what I want to try and do is see if I can wait for them to come off the flag and kill some of them, and then make my way up and once again wait for the rest of my team to flow up. Now I'm running finite here, and the way I'm using it is to simply cover an angle that I'm not going to be looking at. So if I want to focus on everything to the right of me, for example, I throw a fire nade to my left, so then I don't have to worry about someone picking me from that angle, because they're going to take a lot of damage in that process, and all I have to do is turn around, flick a shell, or spray them with my HMG for 1 bullet, and they're going to be dead. So it's kind of like an insurance policy to protect myself. So if you're ever in the gunner seat and you have a reliable gunner, or if you're just a random pub player, or if you are gunning for a tanker, one of the things you need to consider is, where is your tank driver facing that turret? When you figure out where they're facing that turret, well, how do you think you can put at the max damage potential as a tank gunner? Looking the other direction. So the whole purpose of the gunner seat in the tank is to simply help be your second set of eyes. So the whole point of it is not to try and steal kill, because what you're trying to do is you're gonna rely on your tanker's aim, and he's gonna rely on your aim to finish on people on your left, your right, and your backside. The whole purpose of the gunner seat is to make sure the survivability of the tank goes up. And both of you, actually, your job is to keep the survivability of the tank, because sometimes the driver's going to have to get out and double rep with you as well. So the main responsibility is to make sure both of you make sure that you either live or die with the tank. Never let them steal your tank. Once you figure out that your job as a gunner is to cover everything where the tank is not looking, you'll start to realize you'll be able to actually play way more aggressive in the tank on the flag, or even closer, or solo capping flags where you take on the whole team. That's the whole purpose of the gunner, but we won't go on to that more about it. As you can see, the round's starting to close up, and I totally bait this tank into a C4 quad. It was just a situation which I didn't have to try as hard. Like, yeah, sure, I could finish him off myself, but I decided, you know what, I'm going to try and save some of my shells here, and I'm just going to use my teammate to help me out in this situation, because in that, I can drive to these center flags and have a couple of extra shells to finish off targets once and for all. You can see teams pushing up onto their objective here on my right hand side, so I push with them. One of the things a lot of tankers that are starting out that are new don't kind of read what their team is doing, and this is a team-based game. Think of it a bit like Overwatch. You're the tank and you got to dive on the objective, so you got to take some of the heat, but at the same time don't position yourself mindlessly and throw your life away. Anyway, hopefully I covered some basics for this map here. It didn't have much attack chopper focusing me, so I'll hopefully try and get around where I get focused by air vehicles more, so you can kind of learn how to deal with that situation. Anyway, like and subscribe, and I'll be definitely putting up some new content again soon. Peace.